Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Hello, universe. It's me, Joe Tantillo, the J-Lister. I have to say, in all honesty, that about 24 hours ago, I was not expecting to be hosting this podcast right now. Because for those of you that did not pay attention this weekend to the Hell in a Cell predictions, I lost the matchup against my brother John. I failed. Simple as that. I can blame a number of things if I wanted to. I could say, oh, I've had a lot going on in my life, new job, new city, new apartment, and yet, in the end, it falls on me. I was the one who was overconfident. I was the one who risked control of the show and allowed my brother to once again become part of Tag Me In, Bro. And for some reason, this self-professed icon has deemed Raw the B, C, F show. He has determined that this show is not worthy of his time. But I know that for many of you, Raw is and always will be the A show of WWE, and I will never, ever quit on this show or this brand. I will always seek out the positives and criticize the negatives when there are some, but give the benefit of the doubt, because I love wrestling, and I love the WWE, and I love the fans. And I'm sorry that I let all of you down, and I have no idea what I have opened the door to, the proverbial Pandora's box, by allowing my brother back onto this show. It is a great risk, and we will see what happens in time. But for now, all I can say is that I will continue to bring you Monday Night Raw to the best of my ability every week. And with that being said, be sure to follow us on Twitter at TagMeInBro. And now it's about to go down in a big way. Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling. So first things first, we'll cover the Raw rundown, where we'll give you the top 5 most important things that happened on last night's show, as decided by me and me alone. Moving forward, we'll go to our Eye to the People segment, where we will ask you some sort of question, engaging you and getting your opinion on the happenings of the world of WWE. This week, I want to know who dethrones Seth Rollins as IC champion. After that, we will move on to the Indie Corner for a quick talk about the Omega vs. Ishii match from this past weekend. Then we will move on to our main event, where we talk about the question on everyone's mind this week. This week, the topic is Universal Title Groundhog Day. What's the future status of this belt? And finally, we will close out the show the same way we do every week with our Stars of the Night. So without further ado, let's get to that Raw rundown.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monday Night Raw!
Here are the only 5 things you need to know about Monday Night Raw last night. Number 5, Nia Jax returns. Number 4, Dean versus Drew. Number 3, Seth versus Dolph. Number 2, Baron versus Roman. And number 1, the Universal Title Triple Threat match confirmed for Crown Jewel. That last one was a little bit longer than the rest of them, and this is a very match-heavy card. Not a lot of big moments from last night that stood out for me. It was really about these couple of matches here. So let's dive into this list. So number 5, Nia Jax returned to team with Ember Moon against Mickie James and Alicia Fox in a match that Nia eventually won. My problem with this was there was no fanfare at all. Nia returned on a random episode of Raw, coming off of, her reign as women's champion in her matches with Ronda, and all of a sudden she's just back and nobody's really talking about it. She's just here, so it feels like she's dropped in her status level in the company. She did pick up a big win. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Would just like to see a former women's champ get a little more fanfare, a little bigger deal made out of it, not just a random tag match against Alexa's lackeys. Moving on, you've got Dean versus Drew. This was just a glimmer, a taste, a sniff, if you will, of what is to come between these two. Great match. Drew wins clean over Dean, but what a sense of, like, future greatness we got from this match. I want just an unsanctioned match between these two. Let them go at it. They have really, really good in-the-ring chemistry, and the character juxtaposition of Drew as this confident, towering, absolute unit of a man against Dean the lunatic who fears nothing and is tough as nails, just, for me, makes excellent television. So I'm very excited to watch it, very excited to see how they will butt heads more in the future. Moving on to number 3, we had the Intercontinental Championship rematch between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. Very good match, as always, between these two absolute in-ring technicians. And Seth Rollins won, ending this feud for the time being, though you never know, with acting general manager Baron Corbin doing his nefarious heel tactics from week to week. Dolph could just get a rematch for no reason, so we will see what happens on that. Number 2 was acting general manager Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns, the big dog, in a match for the Universal title, which descended into chaos near the end. It started out as a pretty okay match. Not the best, not the worst, but enjoyable. Love Baron's current character, and I love that he just gave himself a match. I thought that was brilliant. I do think Baron Corbin, as he is right now, deserves to be in the title picture, so I enjoyed this. As for the fallout of the match, basically the Dogs of War, being Braun and Dolph and Drew, got involved, and the Shield got involved, and there was all sorts. Baron at one point lost the match, and then of course turned it into a no disqualification match. But Roman, won with the spear in the end, and the Shield stood tall in the ring, dominant over their heel opponents. So it is what it is. Moving on to the most important thing that happened last night is it was announced that at WWE Crown Jewel, the pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia on November 2nd, it will be a triple threat match between Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman for the Universal title. My thoughts are kind of disappointed they're going back to Saudi Arabia. I understand that it is for the money. Seems to me like this should be a principled decision over a money decision, considering all their stuff about Be a Star, all their stuff about Women's Evolution, especially since it's happening literally right after the Evolution pay-per-view. Very poor timing, if you ask me. Anyway, the politics of the situation aside, the match will take place there, and who knows what will happen. Maybe Braun, who was successful in Saudi Arabia last time, will finally be crowned Universal Champion over in the Middle East. But we will just have to wait and see. Anyway, Raw was all right this week. Not as good as I felt it was previous to Hell in a Cell, but not as bad as it was over the middle of the summer. Certainly some things to enjoy, some things they could work on for next time. Looking forward to see what happens in the coming weeks, because there's a lot going on with Super Showdown and Evolution and Crown Jewel. 3 pay-per-views in, I think, the span of 6 weeks. It's a very short amount of time. Things are going to get missed. I'm already noticing that Evolution has taken a backseat to Super Showdown and the Crown Jewel show, which is very worrying, but we will see how it unfolds. And let us know your thoughts on social media. And speaking of social media, it's time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know who you think is going to dethrone Seth Rollins and take his Intercontinental Championship from His feud with Dolph has ended for the time being, and he is sort of in this feud with Dolph and Drew together, with him and Dean as a tag team. So how long will he hold that title? I don't know. It may be that they want to move it to a different feud to give something for the rest of the card to do while the Shield battles with the Dogs of War and takes up most of the spotlight. So we'll put a couple options up there for you on Twitter, and you can vote by using the hashtag #HotTag, and we'll read out some of our favorite comments each week. And speaking of reading our favorite comments, let's check out the results of last week's topic, where we asked you, are you excited for Hell in a Cell? And you said yes. 64% of you said yes. We had over 300 votes, so obviously there was, despite a lot of people kind of trash talking it beforehand, it seems like there was a lot of enthusiasm about the show. So let's read a couple of our favorite responses here. Shauna L. Jones at Shauna BB said, no Shinsuke Nakamura on the card, so it sucks. I don't agree that the whole pay-per-view was going to suck because of that, but I do love Shinsuke, and it was a damn shame that he got left off the card, especially since he was the Universal Champion. But I did appreciate the longer matches and higher match quality because of a reduced card, so it could work. There are pros and cons with that happening. Kyle DeWitt at Kyle DeWitt says, voted yes, but I'm only kind of excited. Charlotte versus Becky is really the only thing I care about, but it's not even in the cells like it should be. So technically I fall under excited, but if that match were to open the show, I would legit stop watching after the match was over. Well, Kyle, I hope you enjoyed the show as a whole, and the Becky versus Charlotte match I thought did deliver. It wasn't the first match, so you got to see a couple extra matches in there. I hope you were entertained, but let us know if you were or not. Let's see, Kickout at 2 at And a Near Fall says, the build-up itself hasn't been that great, to be honest, apart from Becky Charlotte and Joe AJ, but the matches themselves have me pumped. Well, I'm glad that you were excited for the show, and I have to agree that Becky Charlotte and Joe AJ were definitely the best going into it, but I was sports entertained by Hell in a Cell as a whole. I really was. I thought it exceeded my expectations. Well, I know it exceeded my expectations. I thought it exceeded general expectations for the show as well. But thank you, all of you, for your responses. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about who's going to beat Sept for the IC Championship. We'll talk about it next week.
Bullet Club is fine.
Let's take a quick spin to the Indie Corner. This week on the Indie Corner, we are talking very briefly about Kenny Omega versus Tomohiro Ishii from this past weekend, New Japan's destruction in Hiroshima, and what a match it was. The two of them obviously had their fantastic match at the G1. This one went a little longer at 30 minutes, about 10 minutes longer, and it was not at the same pace or intensity of their G1 match, but that's bound to happen when you've got to go harder. But the finale of the match was absolutely terrific. Omega got the win in the end. If you are not a fan of New Japan Wrestling and you haven't seen the match or didn't even know it was going on, I would highly recommend it. That's basically the purpose of this segment, is to say, there's a lot of good stuff happening, not in WWE, that I think a lot of WWE fans would enjoy. Kenny Omega is great. Tomohiro Ishii is an absolute hidden gem, diamond in the rough, doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, and I think that people would like him, and a lot of people do love him, who are aware. So go and check that match out. A lot of good things happening there. And that was the Indie Corner, brief but oh so sweet for this week.
It's Rusev Day. It's Rusev Day.
And now it's time for the main event. This week in the main event, we're talking about Universal title Groundhog Day and what the status of that belt is going forward. So, a few weeks ago, after Roman Reigns finally won the title off of Brock Lesnar, I gave a little monologue in this segment discussing how happy I was that Roman was finally the champion and all the benefits therein of that happening, and how I thought that while, Roman's not my favorite wrestler, it was the right choice for him and the right direction for the belt, blah, blah, blah. I was very, very positive. And I'm not about to be completely negative here, don't get me wrong, but I am growing increasingly nervous with the state of the belt, especially after how the Hell in a Cell match was handled, and now that we know that his next major defense will be at the WWE Crown Jewel pay-per-view, which is not for another 6 weeks. And who will he be facing in that match? None other than Braun Strowman and, Brock Lesnar for about the 8th time. And, okay, so let me say, first things first. I popped hard when Brock showed up at Hell in a Cell and kicked in the door to the cell, because it was dope, and I like dope wrestling moments. I don't care if they're cheap pops. Like, I enjoy wrestling, and I enjoy when, like, tough guys do tough guy things. It was cool. That being said, after sleeping on it for a little bit, I thought to myself, how is it possible that they have allowed, on the 20-year anniversary of Mick Foley, even though the real 20-year anniversary was in June, on the 20-year anniversary of Mick Foley literally falling through the cell accidentally and having his teeth jam up, like, through his nose, and they didn't end that match, how does Brock come in, kick in the door, and just do, a couple F5s, a couple shots with the table, and the match is over in a no disqualification, which, like, never, ever happens in Hell in a Cell. I don't know if it's ever happened before. Anyway, so we get this piss-poor ending, which leads to a new piss-poor booking decision, in that you've got a repeat of Roman and Brock once again, when I finally thought it was over. I really thought it was over. The big underlying principle and what I was trying to get across with my speech previously about Roman Reigns as champion was that Roman Reigns as champion finally presented opportunity to the rest of the card. We saw Finn get a match, like, almost right away, and I got real excited thinking, okay, you know what? The Roman v. Brock saga is finally over, and we're out of this era where it's just going to be those two and everyone else is going to be suppressed, and we're going to get a series of incredible matches with Roman and various competitors, similar to how we did when he was WWE champion, when he had that great series with AJ Styles, amongst other people. And yet, that is not entirely what we have gotten. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had Roman face a couple people on Monday Night Raw in his open challenges, and it's been pretty good. But we all know that the Universal title is not going to change hands on a random episode of Monday Night Raw. It's just not going to be the case. The truth is that belt barely changes hands on pay-per-views as it is, and it's only going to change hands in the most prominent settings. It's pretty much the Big Four belt at this point. And, of course, it already did not change hands, but was won on Monday Night Raw when Kevin Owens won it in that fatal four-way. So it's really not going to change hands on Monday Night Raw because it's already happened in its title lineage. So now they're, building the prestige. So that being said, the matches that Roman is having on pay-per-views, he's not defending it at Super Showdown, so that's already one pay-per-view where he's not defending it, so fighting champion, quote-unquote. They're not really backing that up fully, but I'll give him a pass on that one because that's like a weird pay-per-view that's like, I don't know, it's like, it's an offshoot, and yet they're promoting the hell of it. It's weird. We can almost discount it, but we won't for the sake of argument. Sorry, I'm rambling because I am passionate about this subject. As you know, I have talked about the Universal title many times because I feel that they have bungled the unveiling of it, the handling of it after that, and just I really thought that this was finally going to be the moment where it was handled with care, and yet I find myself disappointed. I don't like these really lengthy feuds where it feels like it's just the same three guys passing the belt around and around, and Brock coming back into the feud just signifies to me that this is not the end. The problem is at Crown Jewel, it's a triple threat, so one of those two men is still going to have a claim to the title. God forbid Roman loses, then perhaps even all three, if it's just Brock pins Roman, then all three men have a claim to the title moving forward. And you see how we're going into Survivor Series with these same guys as the champion, and then if you get a potential title change there, it feels like almost an endless cycle of just Braun, Brock, Roman, Braun, Brock, Roman, Braun, Brock, Roman, and that is the Raw main event, and I can see where the frustration starts to come in from a number of fans when you just have this person just beating you over the head saying, these guys are the main event, you better like them, you better like them, you better like them, when there are other guys who are close to the main event, Dolph, Drew, Dean, Seth, who are all pretty much loved, I won't say universally, but loved by a large portion of the fan base. But they're not getting their chance at that top belt, and I don't know if that matters for a lot of people, but it does matter to me. In this television program, where you know, it's a television program about a wrestling company, and like how in Game of Thrones, I would want my favorite character to become king, in this wrestling show, I want my favorite character to become champion, and I think that's completely fair. So you know, when you've got an endless cycle of the same people battling for the title, and your favorites aren't quite able to even get into the picture, they're not even on the field, they're not even in the game, they're sitting on the sidelines, you know, it builds frustration, and it can be very disappointing, and I think that's why a lot of people have been struggling with Monday Night Raw recently, because it is this Groundhog Day feeling. It's this sense that we've seen it before, and we've seen it frequently over the past several years, and that should not be the case in professional wrestling, especially when it is not being done to a level that is exceptional in the eyes of your viewing audience. And yet here we are. So we will watch as this saga continues to unfold, and we will hope silently on the sidelines that maybe after this crown jewel match, finally we can put to rest this endless saga of the Beast, the Monster, and the Big Dog, because I personally have seen enough for a lifetime. And that has been our main event. Let us know if you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts on this Universal title Groundhog Day. Always eager to hear thoughts and comments from the fans, because, as you know, this is a show made by fans, for fans, influenced by fans. We're just fans. We're not experts. We're just fans talking about what we liked and didn't like. And now let's finish the show off the way that we do every week with our Stars of the Night. Here are our Stars of the Night for Monday Night Raw, September 17th, 2018 edition.
You just made the list!
Number 3, The Undertaker. Though The Undertaker's moment did not make it into our top 5 this week, he gave a bone-chilling promo about how he's going to bury Triple H and steal his soul in Australia, and he said that Kane will be by his side, so 2 thumbs up for Brothers of Destruction. Number 2 is Baron Corbin. The acting general manager is doing a great job in his new role, asserting his authority and giving himself championship matches, and performing quite well in them, I must say. So Baron Corbin has made the list once again. And the number 1 star of the night is collectively The Shield. Roman won his match, Seth won his match, and while Dean did not win his match, he continued to show off his newer, deeper arsenal. They stood tall at the end of the show. The Shield looks dominant right now, and they are going into Super Showdown against the Dogs of War. I believe in the Shield. And Shield, you deserve it. That will do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me In Bro, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Podbean, wherever podcasts can be found. We are once again at Tag Me In Bro on Twitter. I have been Joe Tantillo. Thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned tomorrow for SmackDown Live, and now Wednesdays for NXT with my villain of a brother. But we'll see how he does. We'll see what you guys think. Goodbye, Universe.